Hello, and welcome to the class. My name's Paddy. Today, we're going to look at relative clauses. So, by the end of this class, you should be able to define the things, people, or ideas that you're talking about. After you watch this class, if you have any questions, remember that you can click on the chat icon at the top of your page and send us a message with any questions that you have. During this class, there will be some questions for you to answer. You can find these below the video. I will tell you when you need to answer these questions, and I will give you some time to do so. Okay, let's get started. Here, we can see some shirts. They have different colors and different prices. Person A is asking, which shirt do you want to buy? And person B responds, I want the white shirt. This shirt costs £25. Now, if person B only said the first sentence, then I don't know which shirt they want. It could be any of these three. If they only said the second sentence, then it could be any of these two. We need both sentences to define which shirt this person is talking about. At the moment, they are speaking in two sentences, but I want to combine these sentences together into one sentence because it's more natural to say it like this. So person B might say, I want the white shirt, and then to include this sentence, they would say, which costs £25. This is a relative clause. The word which is a relative pronoun. It has replaced the word shirt. Here are some other examples of relative clauses. Mr. Wilson was the teacher who inspired me the most. Now, if I only said Mr. Wilson was the teacher, that sentence doesn't give me any information. I need to define which teacher I'm talking about, the teacher who inspired me the most. So this is the relative clause, and the relative pronoun is who, replacing the teacher. The house that my family used to live in is now very expensive. The relative clause is that my family used to live in, because it's defining which house I'm talking about. So let's think about how we structure the relative clause in a sentence. Here's an example sentence. Susan is the colleague. Okay, this sentence tells me no information. It doesn't help me at all. So I might give a relative clause defining more about the noun. Susan is the colleague who I speak to the most. The relative clause and the relative pronoun come immediately after the colleague because that's the noun I'm defining. Let's do an example together. David bought the car, which he had wanted for a long time. Now, the question is, where do I put this relative clause? Does it go after David? Does it go after bought? Or does it go after the car? Look at the first question below this video and choose the correct option. Does it go after David? Does it go after bought? Or does it go after the car? The correct answer is it goes after the car because I'm defining which car David bought. David bought the car which he had wanted for a long time. So this relative clause explains which car I'm talking about. Okay, let's do another one. The computer is already broken. And here's the relative clause. So does it go after the computer? Does it go after is? Or does it go after broken? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option. The correct answer is after computer. The computer that I bought last week is already broken. This relative clause defines which computer I'm talking about. There are millions of computers in the world. I'm talking about the one which I bought last week, or that I bought last week. You'll notice there are different relative pronouns in these sentences. So let's look at those different relative pronouns. The first one is who. We use who for people, humans, or characters. There is also another word, whom. Now, I'm not going to talk about this too much in this class, but we do use whom when the relative pronoun is the object of the sentence. So, he's the man who saved me. He saved me. And he's the man whom I saved. I saved him. Him is the object of this sentence. To be honest, whom is being used less and less in modern English. So if you use who for everything, that's okay. Next, we have which. We use which for anything which is not a person, objects, things, ideas. You could also use it for animals as well. That's the train which leaves at 1:30. Train is an object or a thing. Next, we have that. Now, that can be used in place of who or in place of which. That's the train that leaves at 1:30. It's the same, I've just used that. I could also say, he's the man that saved me. He's the man that I saved. So it can replace who, whom, or which. Next, we have whose. Whose is a little bit more difficult. We use it for possessions. It goes between the owner and the possession. For example, I spoke to the man whose dog attacked my cat. So the noun in the first sentence is man, but the man didn't do anything in the second sentence. His dog did something. The dog is a possession of the man. So we use whose to mean like his or her or my or your or its. Where. Where is actually a relative adverb. It replaces in that place or on that location. For example, Assam is a region of India where they grow a lot of tea. What this second sentence is saying, this relative clause, is saying they grow a lot of tea in this region of India. So where replaces in that place. Similarly, we use when for time periods. For example, the deadline is in July, but that's the month when I go on holiday. When is replacing in that month. So let's practice using the correct relative pronoun. Here is a sentence, and the second part is a relative clause. So we are missing the relative pronoun. The question is, which relative pronoun should we use? Look at the next question below this video and choose either who, which, or where. Which is the correct relative pronoun? The correct answer is which. Problem is a thing or an idea or a concept, so we'd use which. We are working on a solution to the problem which you told us about. We could also use that, the problem that you told us about. That was not an option, but you could have used it. 2. Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct relative pronoun from whom, who, or whose. Choose the correct option now. The correct answer in this case is whom. But if you chose who, don't worry. That's also normal English. Whom is the most correct answer, but you could also say who. 3. What is the correct relative pronoun to complete this sentence? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option from which, whom, or that. The correct answer is that. We can't use which because doctor is a person. Whom doesn't work because it's the subject of the second sentence. We could say who, but that was not one of the options. That works here very well. Number 4, look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option from which, where, or when. The correct answer is where. I was born in that city. So where replaces in that city. Last month, I traveled to the city where I was born, Liverpool. Number 5, look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option from which, when, or where. The correct answer is when. I do the most work at that time or in that time. Morning is the time when I do the most work. And number 6, what is the correct relative pronoun to complete sentence number 6? Look at the next question below this video and choose the correct option from whose, who, or which. The correct answer is whose. I damaged her car. So the car is the possession of the woman. So we use whose. I wrote a letter of apology to the woman whose car I damaged. Okay, so let's think a little bit more about the structure of relative clauses. They are a little bit different depending on whether the relative pronoun is the subject of the relative clause or the object of the relative clause. When the noun is the subject of the relative clause, the verb goes after the relative pronoun. For example, Antonio was a farmer who lived in Spain. The relative pronoun is who. It replaces the farmer. So we could say the farmer lived in Spain, or Antonio lived in Spain. The farmer and Antonio is the subject of the sentence. He lived in Spain. So the verb goes immediately after. Notice that the relative pronoun replaces he, or the farmer, or Antonio. So we don't say Antonio was a farmer who he lived in Spain. That's not correct because we're repeating the subject 2 times there. We don't want to do that. All right, let's practice this. Here are 2 sentences. Nintendo is a company. Nintendo makes video games. Can we make a relative clause from these 2 sentences? Number 1, Nintendo is a company. How would you complete that sentence? Look at the next question below this video and type the correct words to complete this sentence. The correct answer is Nintendo is a company which makes video games, or Nintendo is a company that makes video games. That or which are the relative pronouns, and so we don't need to say it makes, that's not correct. We just say which makes or that makes. Nintendo is the subject of both sentences. Okay, so how is this different when the relative pronoun is the object of the sentence? Well, when the relative pronoun is the object of the relative clause, the subject and verb go after the relative pronoun. We do not need to repeat the object. Let's see an example. Chilies are an ingredient which we use to make food spicy. Which is replacing the ingredient. Now, the ingredient is not the subject of the second sentence. The subject of the second sentence is we. We use the ingredient, so the ingredient is the object. Which replaces ingredient, so we don't need to repeat it or the ingredient again. If we do this, it's incorrect. Chilies are an ingredient which we use it to make food spicy. No, we don't need it because which already replaces it. Okay, let's practice this. Jamila is a woman. I met her at a party. Can we make a relative clause using the first sentence and adding the second sentence there? Look at the next question below this video and type the words to complete this sentence. The correct answer is Jamila is a woman who I met at a party, or Jamila is a woman whom I met at a party, or Jamila is a woman that I met at a party. Notice that we don't say I met her because these relative pronouns replace her. When the relative pronoun is an object, there is something else we often do. When it's the object of the relative clause, we can sometimes remove the relative pronoun if we want to. For example, I'm wearing the jacket that you bought me. What is the relative pronoun? It's that. Okay, so what happens when we remove it? I'm wearing the jacket you bought me. That is a correct sentence. Because that is the object, we can remove it. We can't do this when the relative pronoun is the subject. All right, let's practice this. Here are two sentences. One of them is correct and the other is incorrect. Look at the next question below this video, and I would like you to choose the correct sentence, number 1 or number 2. The correct answer is number 2. Philip is the man my sister married. My sister married him. So him is the object, so we can remove the relative pronoun. Philip is the man who my sister married, correct. Philip is the man my sister married, correct. Number 1 is not correct. Philip is the man married my sister. Well, I'm saying he married my sister. So now he is the subject. So we cannot remove who or that from this sentence. Philip is the man that married my sister. Philip is the man who married my sister. We can't remove the relative pronoun because it's the subject of the relative clause. Okay, let's review what we've learned. On this page, there are 6 sentences. 3 of them are correct and 3 of them are incorrect. I would like you to choose the correct sentences. Look at the final question below this video and choose the 3 correct sentences. The correct answers are 1, 3, and 6. Janet is the person who I sold my car to. We've got the preposition at the end. We could also say whom I sold my car to, but this is correct. 3, she married the man she loved. We've removed the relative pronoun because it's the object of the second sentence. She loved him. And 6, Santiago is the city where I met my best friend. Absolutely correct. I met my best friend in that city, so where is correct. So 2, what's the problem? Edward is the man his daughter is in my son's class. Well, whose is possessive, so we don't need his. Let's remove that and see if it's correct. Edward is the man whose daughter is in my son's class. Now it's correct. 4, climate change is a problem which everyone faces it. Well, we've made the mistake of including the object. Everyone faces this problem. This problem is replaced by which, so we don't need it. Climate change is a problem which everyone faces. Correct. 5, Newton was an English scientist which described gravity. A scientist, or Isaac Newton, is a person, it's a human, so we're not going to use which, we're going to use who. Well done if you got those correct. That is the end of the class. Hopefully, you now have a better idea of how to use relative clauses to define the things and people we are talking about. Remember, if you have any questions, you can click on that Ask Your Teacher button at the top of your web page. Thank you for watching.